Okay, here we go in our new TriCaster system. We are so happy. This is day one of TriCaster for ThinkTech. We are happy. And this is also Wednesday, Hawaii, the state of clean energy with me and Ray. Ray and me, Ray and Jay. Ray Starling, my co-host from Hawaii Energy. Yeah, what a team. Okay, and with us we have Arden Penton. She's from Volta Industries. And we're going to talk together about Hawaii energy with Volta. High energy with Volta.
Yes.
Okay, because it is. It's high energy. And Volta, I mean, I wonder where they got that name, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Now, who are your principals again? I love your principals. Tell us who your principals are.
Who's Scott Mercer?
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah. It's Scott at the moment, and we have a lot of investors as well that kind of serve as mentors for us.
You don't have to name them on the air.
Yeah, I won't.
I mean, if you really want to, probably not. Okay. And okay, anybody else?
No.
Okay. All right. Well,
we actually have Michael Menendez. Too.
Michael Menendez.
Yeah.
He's a genius. Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah. Michael Menendez can make beautiful stainless steel charging stations with his hands. What a guy.
Yeah. He made
Designed
the first one. Yeah, exactly. He kind of bootstrapped the model, designed them in a garage, and it was all handcrafted, one at a time, all locally made in Hawaii. So. Smart guy.
On what is it? Not Kamani Street.
Down at Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Ward Avenue area. It's one of those fabulous, those discoveries in Kaka'ako. We should talk about that too. Business in Kaka'ako. This is a fabulous business in making things out of stainless steel.
I know, it's pretty
and
impressive.
Successfully so. Yeah. Where's your office?
We actually just opened an office over in California, in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, but we're just working remotely here.
Oh. So thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Are you based here?
Yeah, we have a staff. It's still a Honolulu-based company, but due to kind of expansion to California, it's obviously much easier to have a little skin in the game over there as well.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger.
Yeah. So let's discuss your business model. Oh, wait. Question, Ray.
Guess what just walked in?
Oh my God.
The negawatt moment.
It's Derek. Derek Sonoda's here. Derek, can you try to pull up that microphone and give us some words of discipline, of caring, of sustainability, self-reliance, and energy efficiency above
It's
all.
always good to be here.
Uber energy efficiency.
Today for the negawatt moment, when you're ready, I want to discuss some little known energy savings tips that can make a big difference for a lot of people.
Derek, we're always ready.
You're always ready? Could I pass you over a little prop?
If you wish,
Sure.
we can hold it up for the camera.
I just want you to hold this and maybe ready to
Okay,
go.
okay. Let the record reflect that the witness has provided me with Exhibit A. We'll mark this as Exhibit A for identification. It'll be introduced into evidence later, and it's called Energy Guided in yellow. See that? See?
Yeah, a lot of people have seen that all over the island. Every time they want to buy an appliance, a major appliance and things like they see that. But what they may not realize...
would you want
sure.
to turn on the mic?
Oh, okay. Can you hear me better now?
So better. I mean,
Oh.
feel it to my core.
That's terrific.
Now what you say will be heard. I mean, we'd be
Awesome.
so much, all of us, better off. If I did mention that's Derek Sonoda, now he can actually talk to us.
It's great. I wanted to talk a little bit about
Control room, can you hear him? Okay, good.
that little guide there, because that's all over the islands. Anytime you want to buy something, you see that guide. And what that guide is intended to do is to give you an idea of how much it's going to cost you to run that appliance for a whole year. But it's not in Hawaii rates. So if you take a look at the bottom, Jay, you'll see that it's in 10.8 cents per kilowatt hour, and we're nowhere near close to that. So the general rule of thumb that we try and teach people is to go ahead and multiply that number by 3 for Oahu. And that's for a new Energy Star refrigerator, a very typical side-by-side one that a lot of people like and buy from our favorite retailers. It's going to cost about $174 a year on Oahu. For the neighbor islands, you got to multiply that number by 4. That number jumps to $234. So when people see that initial amount, it's really an illusion, and they need to do some quick calculations or math in their heads. So just looking at that, if you were to do this with a lot of people have refrigerators from the early 90s, it's not that old yet.
Mm-hmm.
Those same refrigerators, to contrast that, a brand new one today is $174 to operate. An old one is $543 to
Ooh,
operate
that's a
on
lot of
Oahu.
difference, yeah.
We're trying to get rid of all of those, so we have a rebate for that. And on the neighbor islands, the story gets even darker. It's $708 for operating the very popular refrigerator that's coming
Because
from
rates
the
are
90s.
higher on the
Wow.
neighbor
Well,
islands.
rates are higher than the neighborhood, but the units weren't as good. So we have those, and I have one or two more tips that I want to share with you really fast. One of the things that people love to do is hang out in the refrigerators, and I'm guilty of this. I'll go and I'll check out the refrigerator, open the door, make sure nothing has changed in the last 10 minutes.
Somehow I can't see you actually, Derek, hanging out in a refrigerator. I can't see myself.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
But just that bad habit of checking the refrigerator often, for a brand new refrigerator, that adds 7% of the cost. So it's going to add an additional $12 a year for just checking it all out. But most people don't have brand new refrigerators. That bad habit, and that's per person, is going to add $34 in energy costs a year just for checking out if the food has changed. That's on Oahu.
Just think twice next time you go down at 2
That's
o'clock in the
exactly
morning and
right.
open the door.
I'm guilty of that.
And on the neighbor islands, it jumps to almost $50 for just checking it out. It's a bad habit that we all do. We just keep opening and close. The
So you
secret-
get two benefits out of not doing that. One is you save energy.
right.
Two is you're healthier. You know,
That's
there
exactly
it is.
right.
No
So I'm
more
gonna
of
tell
that
you-
now.
No.
I'm going to tell you why that is so. Because in a refrigerator, the secret sauce to a refrigerator is the cold air. So the more cold air that's in the refrigerator, and every time we open that door, there's a huge exchange of the warm, humid Hawaii air, and it fills that refrigerator up. So the secret to this is, if you can fill your refrigerator up full, and people think, well, I don't want that much food. But here's the secret. It doesn't have to be with food. You can put pitchers of water. You can actually even put empty storage containers. All you want to do is stop the air exchange. So you can put empty Tupperware, you can put whatever you want and just fill it all up. So when you open that door, there's little exchanges, and that will save you money just
And
by doing that simple thing.
P.S. That
Yeah.
pitcher of water is actually being cooled, and so it actually helps cool the other things in the refrigerator.
Absolutely.
It may be even a better medium than the air in order to make the refrigerator work more efficiently.
Absolutely. And there's one
I'm just
more
trying to
tip.
help out over
No,
here.
no,
you know.
one more tip to exactly what you said. Make sure that liquid, that beverage, that water has a cover to it. Because that exposed food, exposed liquid actually adds humidity in that air, and the refrigerator has to work that much harder to remove that. So just cover your food, wrap it all up, and those are 3 simple energy-saving tips that will really make a difference, especially because in Hawaii, we have a lot of old refrigerators at the workplace that just got moved in from the houses, and those are the ones that are purchased in the 90s. So now we're talking about huge differences all across the islands for where you have used refrigerators being moved into the workplace. That's the megawatt moment for the day.
Okay, well, your thought about the humidity is very interesting because ThinkTech made a movie of the rooftop air conditioning system at Whole Foods in Kailua, and it's assisted by a desiccation system, and the desiccation system is actually a solar system that heats the water in these transparent tubes, and the water goes to a desiccator, and the desiccator desiccates the air.
Sounds terrible, but
It sounds desiccation sounds like something in medical school, but it's not true. It only means it takes the water out of the air, and the whole point there is that they save a ton of money on air conditioning because they dehumidify the air that they are processing by the air conditioner. So they still have an air conditioner, but they have dried air going through it. And this saves them a ton of money using the solar. It's very interesting. It's very avant-garde. Invented by some organization associated with Princeton, as I recall. Anyways, but the point about humidity is the same thing in the refrigerator, isn't it?
Yes.
If you keep the humidity down, then it's easier for the refrigerator to work.
Yes.
You know?
And Jay, if your viewers love these little tips of knowledge that they can share with people, they can always come to the HawaiiEnergy.com website. But even better yet, if they come to the Hawaii Energy Facebook site, we're partnering with Kanu Hawaii, and they're distributing these energy-saving tips, one a day for the next few months. and you'll learn different things that you never even thought about. And they just make a simple difference that you can share with your whole family, and they'll just understand.
We like learning.
Yes, so please.
So the thing, Arden, is instead of getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, and going down to the refrigerator and all the bad things that involves, you just get on your computer and look up Hawaii Energy
I will.
and learn all
That'll
these
put you
tips.
to sleep.
I will.
Hey, we got time for one more. I found something out really interesting
Oh my
that I never knew. And you might think this is funny. But you know that ice maker that in most refrigerators or freezers that make the automated ice?
Yeah,
You know, there's a little motor that shoves that thing out and the ice falls down.
yeah.
Well, the reason why the ice maker adds so much electricity use is because there's a heater in the motor to keep it from freezing. So the energy that is going out through that little motor is not the motor pushing it, it's the heater that's keeping that motor from freezing up so it works. And that's adding almost a 15% of the energy cost of the whole refrigerator that has that little ice cube maker, just so that you can have a heater, think about it, a heater in your freezer. Does that make sense? Anyway,
Well,
thank you so much for the
if-
megawatt moment.
Okay, I just comment on that. 2 comments. Oh,
I gave you a round of applause.
Thank you.
one is you do want that motor to work. I mean, you don't want it to freeze up, and otherwise, you wind up having.
I just make my own ice cubes the manual.
The old-fashioned
The
way.
old-fashioned
There
way
you
with
go.
Old-fashioned way.
There
The
you
other
go.
thing, I just noticed this, and I'm a little concerned about it. This is something you put on an appliance. What is that?
Correct.
Okay, and it
I think
says,
that's required by
yeah,
law.
it says, federal law prohibits the removal of this label before consumer purchase. And I am very concerned about, throwing this away after the show or anything. This reminds me of the pillows, brand new pillows and mattresses.
Oh, yeah.
Mattresses?
Can't cut off
Yeah,
the label.
federal law permits go to jail for removing the tag off your mattress. I've worried about that my whole life.
Well, Jay, isn't something about possession? And since I don't have it in my hands anymore, it's kind of on you now.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
so
whatever.
it has
He can
become my
handle it.
problem.
You guys go on.
Thank you, Derek
Thank you.
Sonoda, for another
You need a
glorious
good lawyer.
discussion.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, Derek. Okay, back to you, Arden. All right, so we were talking, as I recall, about your model.
Yes.
Okay? And how you invented, it's like disruptive what you did. There wasn't a lot of charging stations around, and you guys sort of stepped into it and found a business model that allowed for the development of lots of charging stations. It was something nobody else had thought of, and you guys get permanent credit in the big book in the sky,
Oh,
for having
thanks.
thought that up. So tell us, what is it? How does it work?
Well, initially, a lot of people were concerned. They didn't want to get an electric car because they didn't have anywhere to charge. So we kind of looked at that situation and said, okay, how can we make this a better place for people to want to go get electric cars, make it convenient, make it easy, and make it low cost. And we actually figured out that we manufacture our own stations. What we do is we work with properties and place them in premium locations. So we make it kind of this specialty service for electric vehicle drivers. They can pull right up and plug in for free. Volta actually pays for the full installation of the project. So there's really no reason why a property shouldn't have a charging station. And then we also work with great local companies who are able to sponsor the free service and utilize the sponsorship space on our station to say, free charging courtesy of your friends at American Savings Bank, for example.
Yeah, and it's classy. I mean, it's like the nicest looking ad you ever saw.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's, you mentioned Whole Foods in Kailua. I believe they've got one of your.
We have 2 stations out front, and then we also have another station over in the Longs parking structure
Okay.
where they have the farmer's
And
market
they
there.
are always full.
I know.
I go by there, want to charge on my Leaf, and
Somebody's already
there's
charging.
always somebody.
I know. I know.
You need to put another one.
I was just talking to them yesterday about that because the store gets calls about, we really want more Volta charging stations out front, and we're trying to rationalize how do we create, a line of free stations without it being too obnoxious, I guess.
Well, this is all, you find yourself right in the center of things somehow in terms of the transition to electric cars, which is really important. It's not so much that, electric cars are the end of the game, but there's certainly a change from where we are. and they'll take us to efficiencies that we haven't known. But you guys are, you're in the center of something, and that is, are we really, really going to have electric cars here? I mean, take the shortage of charging stations at Whole Foods. I mean, suppose the number of electric cars in the state goes quadruple, you're going to get a lot more complaints about that, and a lot of people are going to say, fill up every stall with these things, and that's not going to work. I mean, your model may not extend to filling every stall in the lot.
Yeah.
There's only, just conceptually, it's only X number or X percentage of the stalls can handle this. After a while, advertisers are not, maybe they would, I don't know.
It kind of decreases the value.
It must
if I
decrease the
did
value
put
of
10
the average.
stations next to each other, it's kind of a game of
Right.
who's getting the credibility for providing
Exactly.
the service. So, yeah, I mean, the numbers are increasing pretty rapidly.
Tell us about the numbers.
I believe there are.
Last time I looked, there were 1,800 cars in the state.
I think it's something like 22, maybe a
20
little
2,200?
less. Yeah, 2,200.
That's close to 18.
Yeah.
I mean, when you consider that the number of cars in total in the state is something like 3 cars for every household or some
Yeah.
absurd number. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands. It's well over 500,000 cars. So do the math. If we have, say, 2,000 cars out of, say, 600,000 cars, that's a small percentage.
Yeah, it's getting there. And for us, because we do take that front row stall, it's about creating awareness in the community. I just spoke to somebody yesterday who said they'd never seen an electric car. And this is right here on Oahu, where I see a Nissan Leaf, for example, everywhere I go.
That's because you're sensitive to it.
Yeah, maybe.
It's part of your business.
Yeah. But it really is kind of creating awareness, and people have something to talk about. It's kind of this cool, innovative thing that's fresh to the market that they can walk by, going in their way to Whole Foods Kailua, for example, and say, whoa, this is really cool. I get to charge for free. Those are electric cars. Let's learn more. What type of electric cars are in the market? So we get questions asked all the time.
Well, you're part of a new thing, a new phenomenon, a new industry. And I was telling you before, I mean, that electric cars probably soon enough will be replaced. Ray and I know this from other guests on the show. Hydrogen cars, ultimately. There are reasons, you could argue, there are reasons for that to happen.
Right.
And so what happens to Volta and the likes of Volta, you're right in the center of everything when that happens. So you go from having not enough electric cars to make it worthwhile, not enough electric cars to make you look at the mainland for more business, it's got to be part of it. And then you have, after all of that trouble, hydrogen cars, here we come. But the good thing to me is that you have these locations, you have points, and all these points all around town, and they're growing. And these points would allow you to make hydrogen filling stations too, assuming there was technology to make that work in a small area, confined area, and not make it dangerous or anything.
Right. And I think the pipeline for that is pushed out slightly as well. So I don't think that hydrogen is the answer for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think definitely electric is, and we've seen that from all of car manufacturers worldwide are all working on electric versions of something. I mean,
Yeah.
Harley Davidson actually just came out with fully electric
Yes, that would be
motorcycle.
something, huh?
Yeah.
But what happened to the chortle sound? How can we have a Harley Davidson?
You know
without
what?
that?
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
impossible.
I was reading
It
all
comes
these
with a
debates
special machine.
online, and everybody was really upset. Like, no, it's Harley Davidson. They have to stay true to their brand. But Harley Davidson is saying, this is just one option for people that love EVs. So there's lots of options for everybody, and in the future, it will be, based on gasoline and electric and hydrogen. So there will be.
I got an answer for Harley Davidson. Okay, it's done with a pack of playing cards and a clothespin, and you
There you go. I know.
and you attach the playing card so it runs along the spokes. You got to have spoke wheels for this, and it makes a kind of sound.
I remember that.
Yeah, you're younger or older than you look, whatever. Arden doesn't remember any of that.
Yes, I do.
Okay. That's Arden Penton. She's with Volta Industries here today on Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We're talking about Hawaii high energy with Volta Industries. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Martin Despang, and I'm the host together with the one and only Ali Amashta, and our show is called Urban Transcendence. And Urban Transcendence is about identifying where we have a unique situation of a vibrant city in one of the most beautiful natural environments. So how these two can coincide, sometimes conflict, how they could find reciprocity in the 21st century is what we're excited about. And we're planning on bringing in a diverse body of guests, both from the arts and the science and the established and the wise and the emerging generation. So hope you will join us. We'll always be on Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, here we are. We're back in Hawaii, the state of clean energy on a Wednesday. We're talking about high energy with Volta, with Arden Penton, and she's with Volta Industries, and Ray Starling with Hawaii Energy, and my co-host for this show, and we always have a good time, regardless. So, Ray had some good points during the break. Why don't we go to them about how these cars can be integrated with the whole transformation into clean energy.
Well, you know, the utility is working very hard to be able to bring on more renewables to their system. And at some point, you run into problems where you've got more being pushed into the system with the renewable energy, the solar in particular, and wind, that they really can't accommodate more unless you take more off. And so the concept that may start developing is how do we encourage people to take the power and store it when the sun is shining, wind's blowing, and that sort of takes one of the problems off of the grid. And so I think that there's a real future for charging stations and using them in various ways to store energy and possibly to even reverse that and push energy back into the system, which sounds far-fetched, but Nissan has already got a device that does that in testing phases in Japan.
Really?
And it's you can Google that on the internet and see it's already there, and it's just a matter of when the market gets to where it needs to be here. That would be one method that the utility could use to make their grid more acceptable to whatever the customer wants to do. If the customer wants to take energy, he or she should be able to do that. If the customer wants to push energy onto the system, then that also would be available. And the Leaf vehicles are already set up to have software changes that can allow that to happen. You just need a receptacle that can, instead of pushing power into the battery, it can take power from the battery and distribute it to the
So it'd be used as
to
a
the grid.
generator, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Well, some thoughts about that. That was what Better Place. Remember Better Place? It was bankrupt now. Better Place was talking about, 4 or 5 years ago already, in the blush, in the 2008 blush of the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative. They were going to be worldwide, and in fact, they installed in Israel. That was their home state. I forget the guy's name. And they installed in Denmark, and they made a deal with California, and I think they made a deal with Hawaii for charging stations. Actually, this is before Volta BV.
I love it.
And the idea was that they would, I remember the discussion. They were going to have this control central thing here downtown, maybe in Pacific Guardian with some guy with a big console, and they were going to see all these cars all at the same moment, charging and uncharging all around the state, and feeding the utility or taking out of the utility, acting as one organic battery that would solve all these problems. It was brilliant. But I think one of the problems is, aside from just the passage of time and it didn't work and investors didn't come around, but one of the problems is you have to build a huge infrastructure to put the wiring out there. I mean, every single charging station had to have wiring to allow it to go both ways. I mean, I don't know exactly technically what that would require, but there's a lot of work in there.
Well, it is technically feasible.
Oh, yeah.
The question is, when does it become economic to do it? And it becomes economic when you reach the point where we're at now, where the utility cannot take on more renewable energy, and therefore the costs are more swayed towards the fossil fuel that's still being used when they have renewable that they could use. And so I believe there's going to be some trade-offs coming in the near future that would perhaps encourage the kind of infrastructure that you're talking about. And
Well,
it may even be something that you guys look at and get ahead of the game and be the one there that can provide that, because I tell you, the value of being able to help the grid to tolerate more renewables, that's a real
Huge.
value.
Storage.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
huge.
a real
It's huge.
value.
God, I
And the
always say-
technology at hand is, it's there.
It is. It's there. It's
Just
an
is
economic.
the
It's more of
money
an
there?
economic
A
issue.
lot of money, a lot of time. But it's worth it. I mean, now it's kind of a call to action type of concept that we all know, and everyone wants to do something positive for the environment and make positive changes. Seems like everybody kind of just talks about it. So even something as simple, or not simple, but something like that, I mean, it's within reach.
Well, you know, never a show goes by here on Hawaii, the state of clean energy, when we don't talk about storage. And you know, these cars are storage waiting to happen. I mean, it's almost a waste not to use them for storage. They have great batteries. The best batteries, by definition, will be in cars, and they must hook up somewhere every so many hours or days or miles. And so, if we could deliver these wires to them, then computerize the amount that's coming in and going out. Better Place had the idea that they would be able to bill them, you know, for the charge that was going in and out of, you know, sort of like net energy metering. You just bill them, or maybe even send them a check, you know, for the transfer of energy with each car.
Right.
But organically, if you had, say, 500,000 cars in the state, you'd have a whale of a battery. And at any point in time, you'd have, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning, no problem. They'd all be hooked up, and you could draw that power, and so compensate for the lack of solar at that point in the day. I mean, this could be the solution to our problems.
It
And
could-
if I were you, Arden, I'd be afraid, but also stimulated. You know, I think Ray's point is very well taken about that.
Well, and Arden is, you know, part of a group that has been out in front and got a jump on everybody else. And so yeah, I suspect that she won't talk about it, but they're probably already thinking about what's the next phase? Where do we want to be? Because it's going to happen. Somebody's going to do it, because it is the easiest way to deal with the immediate issues of, you know, grid acceptance of renewables.
And
And that's a big deal now.
Interesting
It is,
thing.
it is.
Interesting thing, and I don't know the technology all that well, but is that, you know, as we were talking before the show, if in 10 years' time or 15, we may find hydrogen cars become ubiquitous, because it's, you know, in many ways a better model than a pure electric. But the hydrogen cars also have batteries, and those batteries could likewise be, you know, connected up to this statewide or countywide grid.
Well, the fuel cell itself generates electricity. That's what
Yeah,
it
so-
does.
right.
So yeah, so you could plug it in the same concept.
and sell the juice in your car
excess.
battery back to the utility, and the utility could use that to avoid having to generate extra at 2 o'clock in the morning, and thus they could take more renewables during the day. The whole thing works just so swell. But, you know, as I mentioned in our walk before the show, we took a walk, you know, you could be a hydrogen filling station too. And there's more infrastructure we have to put in.
Yeah.
But there it is, Volta, so we know what you're thinking. Volta charging, delivering hydrogen, okay, and acting as a sort of an agent of the grid in returning electricity to the grid. Wow, your place in the universe is assured.
And you and I would be the only guys around old enough to remember filling stations, right?
Sorry. Okay, on that note, that high point, if you will, we're going to take another break. Here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, with Arden Penton of Volta Industries and Ray Starling, my co-host, talking about high energy with Volta. We'll be right back.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay, we're back, we're live, and we're nostalgic. And during the last break, and Arden was listening ardently, may I say that? Yeah. To Ray and I, comparing notes about the lowest gas prices we can remember in our, long in the
Brief
tooth
history.
lives. And, when I was in high school and college, I have a memory of something in the order of 19 or 20 cents or maybe 25 cents. It was really cheap. I mean,
It was.
everybody had money for gas.
And you remember you'd go up and you'd only buy $1's worth.
Yes.
Right? 'Cause you
Try
had-
that today.
Fill half the tank.
That's crazy.
In a marmalade jar, that's how much gas you'd get. I think
Wouldn't
I'll
get you
take
very
only
far.
$1 worth.
I know.
You go down the block and stop. But that comes very clear to me. The $1's worth of gas. That's what everybody did.
Yeah.
And that would get you all around, for days. Anyway, yeah. And I remember pictures in the 30s. These gas stations in rural areas in the
Oh, yeah.
U.S., maybe areas close to where they had, sources of gasoline, in the ground, pumping, whatnot, where you could buy gas for, in the teens.
Yeah.
Maybe
lower.
less. It was
Yeah.
really, really, really cheap. And how times have changed. But we have to put that behind us. So it's
Way behind.
nostalgia. It hurts. Nostalgia that
I know.
hurts.
Don't think about it.
Anyway, so talk to us about the expansion of the charging stations. I mean, with due consideration of the fact that as you go forward, you really should be building them for more than exactly what they are now.
Right.
Or be prepared. Set them up so
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
attach something to the back and all of
Yeah.
a sudden it'll go both
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good thing about our stations themselves is it's pretty substantial size. So there's kind of endless possibility for the future of Volta, but we're not quite there yet. But we do have, in terms of expansion here in Hawaii, 27 stations on Oahu, and then we just installed 2 over in Maui at Whalers Village in Kaanapali, and then we'll be doing another 2 at Maui Mall as well, over in Maui.
Have you redesigned them? The last time I looked, Michael Menendez was doing a beautiful job. And the ones, for example, I filmed at Kahala Mall. They were beautiful. But have you, are you dynamic? Have you changed them to meet any lesson you found in the marketplace?
Not necessarily, just kind of small little internal tweaks. But the physical model itself is pretty much the same since day one.
And the advertising it's still static.
It's static, and then there's 2 sides to each station, so
Yeah.
post 2 separate media
I'm
faces.
going to make a prediction. Okay, you guys going to find a way to make it less than static. I mean, more than static.
We're there already.
Oh, okay. We're anticipating.
Say,
The whole show is anticipating.
You can't talk about it right now, but
We're there already.
What do you plan?
Digital signs.
Is it internet? Is it connected to somewhere else, or is it self-contained? If you want to
could
take
be
the
either.
Fifth Amendment on this, it's okay.
Well, there's a lot of different ways that we can do it, and we have the capability to do all that, but for the branding opportunity of advertising or sponsoring a free-to-use charging station, we're kind of, tinkering around with the ideas. Do we really want to have a fast-paced, commercial, or do we want it to change every 30 seconds? Like, how would that benefit the brand or the company that sponsors the station? Because as of right now, the company or the stations themselves get branded as whoever it is that's advertising with
Right,
us. So currently somebody like Synetric, for example, people will call us and say, we really want more Synetric charging stations, or can we get Synetric charging stations on Big Island? So
Call Synetric.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly, which is great for whoever is sponsoring the station. But Volta as a brand, we're trying to figure out would it be beneficial to a company such as Synetric or something like that, to have the media swapped out, have it digitalized and make it
Yeah.
fancy. But I mean, even the static, we get people saying that it looks digital already. But the capability in the media world, digital is where it's at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
if you go to Europe, in Europe they have these advertising kiosk things that, and they're not connected by the internet, but they have this device inside that changes the picture.
Sure.
It's physical. It sweeps across the viewing area, and then you have a new picture. It just keeps on going, nice and slow.
But it's static as well, right? It's
Well,
almost like
the
a
picture is static,
stops.
but there's lots of pictures.
right.
And so, I mean, I assume very little expense to do this, and there's no internet involved. I mean, if it was me, I would do the internet. I would find a way to connect with the internet, because then, your advertiser can change it.
Right. Well, they can
be
still
on
swap
your,
the
on
media.
his CEO's desk.
Right.
He can say, "I want to announce something about my company,"
Yeah.
and it goes right
Oh,
out.
yeah.
We have a really
That's-
fast
that's good.
turnaround.
That's
We
a
can
good
swap
idea.
out the media as many times as our sponsors would like. But yeah, it would be much easier to just do it as a push of a
Let
button.
me ask, you were mentioning locations on Oahu.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything up on the North Shore?
Not yet.
I tell you, I know you have to sell a customer on putting one up there, but there are a lot of people who don't make the trip to the North Shore because that gets you into the range anxiety realm. If I'm coming from Kailua, no matter which way I go, I'm going to need to charge up somewhere, or I'm biting my nails getting back to Kailua. So, and there is none. I mean, there was none last time I talked to
Not
people.
yet. We've had plans to do so. We've had many conversations about it. There's a lot of construction going on over there at the moment, so it's kind of incorporating us into those plans.
And of course, you have an app where
Yeah.
I can get on my smartphone, push a button, and it'll tell me exactly where the next charging station is and whether it's occupied and all that, right?
And the state has that as well.
Right, you do have this?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so what's it called? How do I get it?
It's just the Volta app.
Really? Okay. That's fabulous.
But EV Stations Hawaii has kind of the same concept, and it shows all the EV stations statewide.
Right.
So that's
Is that the DBET?
Yeah.
It's on the DBET
yeah,
website?
yeah. So that's a great one to have because, like you said, our stations are full often, but there's so many options. There really are kind of endless possibilities for charging stations. They're everywhere.
Put one
North
up
Shore.
at the North Shore, and I guarantee you, it will not. You'll have lines of people.
Yeah.
You know, my wife. You know, if we took
Turtle
a
Bay
trip
has
up there,
some.
she would insist we take a 100-foot extension cord, and we would just, if we ever got down to that point, we'd stop at somebody's house and say, "Hey, buddy,
Yeah.
can I plug into yours?"
Turtle Bay has some.
socket?"
I think they have maybe 5 or 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Last
I
time I,
did
was
not
there,
know
I
that.
saw
Okay.
them
All right.
in the parking lot there. They weren't occupied, so.
Do you have
See, that's
automobile
part of the problem.
dealerships?
I know.
You have automobile dealerships who advertise on
Yeah.
it? You do?
Yeah, we've had a number of them. Yeah.
You know, because I mean, it strikes me that
Gasoline cars?
for electric cars,
For
right?
electric cars.
for electric
Yeah,
cars.
So-
everything from, Nissan, Chevy, Ford.
Okay. Gotcha.
I've actually been trying to push for Fiat, because Fiat has an electric vehicle, and they will not bring them over to Hawaii, for the reason being is they didn't know if they would be a success, the EV Fiats over in California. and they don't want to ship them all over to Hawaii because then they have to build the infrastructure of charging stations at the dealership.
Going for critical mass, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of issues like that. So it kind of becomes the drivers themselves becoming the evangelists and getting excited about it and showing that there is a demand here.
Well, yeah, the reason I raise it is that you must know about this, Ray. There's some controversy on the mainland, litigation on the mainland about whether dealers, ordinary customary dealers, whether you need to have a dealership to sell an electric car. I think this is the Tesla. Tesla is involved in this.
Exactly.
And so, you know, what happens is the dealers, they like to retain control of all car sales, including electric cars. But there are electric car manufacturers like Tesla who'd like to do it on the net or out of their own brick and mortar place, which isn't really a dealership so much as a, you know, lesser kind of point.
Showroom. they call it.
Showroom, yeah. So their model is changing, and really, I mean, I don't know why it shouldn't change, because you know, we all have had experiences over our lifetimes going back to the 20-cent gas, you know, with automobile dealers and especially used car dealers, and they got a reputation, you know. So it would be okay to go on to, say, a website and say, well, that's the price you pay, and that's what you get. It's real simple.
Sure.
You can
Like
customize
electronics.
everything too.
This, right.
You want these rims,
Column A,
you want
column
this
B.
color
You
leather.
don't have to deal with the car salesman.
right.
That
You know.
was always the
Now,
problem.
I have to
Right.
check that with my boss in the back room,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and I'll be right back, you know, and 45 minutes later, after you're cooking there, he comes back and says, no, he can't do it. You have to pay more. Whatever it is, you know, all these, and the two-way mirrors and the video, never mind. But anyway, I'm thinking that electric cars are headed for where Tesla is. And ultimately, you know, if not sooner than later, we will be buying them, you know, from non-dealer situations, maybe direct from the manufacturer, what
Yeah.
have you, or through agents that are responsible. And all that whole body of law and practice about dealerships, unnecessary.
Yeah, and I think that grew up over the years with the automobile dealer lobby in each state.
You bet.
Putting that into place.
You bet. Right.
And so it's, and Tesla's giving it a good test.
Yeah. So my idea, we want to advise you, Ray, and me,
Please.
you know, keep you full of new ideas. Ultimately, who is in a better position, you know, with your marketing tools, your come to me kind of, you know, functionality. If you're traveling, you've got to come to a charging station. Why can't you also sell cars? Why can't you also sell cars? You're right in the middle of the revolution. Talk to them.
That's what we'll do then. Put our
Oh,
touch screen
that's
station and you just hand order your car.
There you
What are you getting, 20% for that one?
go.
I'm just letting it settle. Ray's shaking his head.
Just put a station up at the North Shore.
I will. I know, there's a big demand for that.
I guarantee it.
I know.
I remember when there was a rally, a leaf rally, that when a handful of people got their first leaves, we were going to have a rally and drive from Kaka'ako
Nobody would do
up
it.
to the North Shore.
Yeah.
And when people found out, I mean, and they actually did that, and the ones who went up there realized, hey, there's no charging station
Yeah.
up here.
Now, what's troublesome about this whole approach is that it's not the government. You're not asking the government to do this. You're asking Volta Industries to do it. What about the government? Didn't they promise us charging stations all over? It was going to be ubiquitous all over the island. I remember Brian Schatz, Brian Schatz, he's a fellow running for the Senate right across the hallway here at Pioneer Plaza at the core of downtown Honolulu. It was only maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. He was in a program at the convention center, and they were saying, here's a map. Look at all these charging stations. It's going to be everywhere. And all these fellows stood up with him, you know, yes, it's going to be everywhere. It isn't everywhere. I don't see construction sites for charging stations except yours, referring to Alden. You know, what happened? What happened to the government who was going to give us incentives? The incentives stopped, right? And what happened to the government who was going to give us charging stations? This whole thing is in trouble. And
Well,
the only people that are doing anything about it are sitting at this table.
Right. Well, and ultimately, you know, once it gets started, it should be run on an economic basis. I mean, if it makes economic sense, people will do it. But I don't think we didn't get the critical mass yet. We got a lot of people really interested in electric vehicles, but we haven't hit critical mass. Everything's kind of percolating here, but we need it to, you know.
I feel like they're
Start
waiting for more
fission.
options.
What kind of options?
They're waiting for more EV options
Well,
in terms of the
well,
buyers.
you mean the type of vehicle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I'm pretty happy with my Leaf, and I've heard everybody's bought a.
you'd be happier with a
Tesla.
250-mile range, wouldn't you?
That would make my wife happier. I'm perfectly happy with the
Well,
75 mile range. and
Yeah,
all
no,
that.
Leafs are great. But, you know, if you're looking to purchase something like a vehicle and you have 3 options or 4 options,
Oh, yeah.
it's a small amount of options. It's not that any of them aren't great cars, but people love options. But Tesla actually is coming out with the more affordable option.
Right.
I think that's starting at 40.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the sedan was supposed to be 50, but that was some years ago, and it turned
You
out
want
to be
batteries with that?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, and then they're talking about the battery swapping options as well, which is interesting.
Yeah, well,
And I'm sorry.
I want to go to the Sharon Moriwaki question because she is always with us.
Okay. In spirit.
She's right. She's another co-host of the show. So what are you running into here? What are the problems? You know, we were talking about your selling charging stations in California. There are issues. People don't always, shopping center owners, you know, tell us about what you're running up into here and there
Right.
and how you're solving those problems.
Well, the thing is that we don't even sell the stations; we give them away. So we go to properties and say, look, you know, we'll pay to install this, which is anywhere from 5 to, I don't even want to say the number. We're putting a lot of upfront costs in. We're going to deliver you your ideal customer, so it's a great thing for the property to have. Especially in California, they say that they don't want to lose a stall. So they only have 500 stalls. They don't want to designate 2 or 4 stalls for electric cars, which is really frustrating because, I encourage them to hang up the phone or, let's end this meeting immediately, walk out into your parking lot and tell me how many electric cars you see. There's going to be a good amount of them. You'll have a handful of Leafs or Chevy Volts or Teslas. They're already on your property, but for some reason, they can't really wrap their mind around designated specific stalls for electric cars. So that's probably
a good point.
the biggest obstacle for us.
Well, but I'll play the role of the shopping center owner. Says, you're right, Arden. There are lots of electric cars here. So, why do I need to put in these stalls? Because sometimes these stalls are going to be vacant. Nobody will need them at that moment. And I'd really rather have every stall full with a shopper shopping. So I'm not pushing them away. They're already here. Why don't I just leave it the way it is?
We beg to differ. So there's a lot of great reasons why they should do it. And driving a Leaf, you can understand that you probably would consider going to a specific location that has a charging station so that you can charge your car while you shop or while you eat lunch or whatever it is. So these EV drivers who are educated, have disposable income, they're early adopters, tech savvy, right? That's
all
you?
Of you. Good looking.
Yes, and very good looking. You want them on your property to go and spend money. I mean, we have people, I met a woman at Kahala Mall and I was at the station and she came out and said, I came to charge my car, I needed a little bit of range on my car. I just went into the Apple store and bought a new computer. Like, thanks a lot, Volta, you owe me $3,000. And that's exactly the type of customer that you want on your property, and it's great incentive for them to visit your property because there's a station.
So the demographics are different for electric car owners? I mean, I know Ray, for example. He's a different kind of person. But I mean, is this really what it is? I mean, can I
I mean,
research this and
There's a
find that
specific demographic.
if people who own electric cars are nicer people or
No, not
come
nicer.
from
They're
better
the
Better
kind,
looking.
they're the kind that would, yeah, better looking, but they're the kind
Ecologically
that
savvy,
would
all
shop
this.
at Whole Foods. You know?
Yeah, okay.
There are a lot of people just like me coming in there and saying, "Oh, there's 2 stalls are already taken, so you park down there where the other leaves."
Right. Well, I think people want to do business with companies that promote a healthy lifestyle,
There you go.
a green movement. So one, yes, you attract the EV driver, but also the whole community walks by this station. Every single person, vehicular and pedestrian traffic, see the station, and somebody like Hall Mall, for example, brands themselves as somebody that supports the green movement, supports EV drivers. So it's a great benefit for them, even if the station isn't being used at that particular moment. Somebody, of low household income, for example, they still get that emotional benefit of seeing something that's free and good for the environment.
So I guess Volta sees, I mean, I'm asking for your projection here. Volta sees the electric car thing as continuing to expand.
Absolutely.
And I mean, are you in any way disappointed with the lack of explosive expansion that we've had so far?
A little bit. I think just like anything, it progresses slowly and then booms. So it really does take absolutely. It does take the support from the drivers themselves. Once you get an electric car, you probably never go back to a gasoline
Probably
car.
not.
Okay, probably.
An electric car is not a car, it's a state of mind.
It is. That's true.
So slowly but surely you get these people on board, and then their friends are on board, their families on board, and it slowly becomes a demand in specific markets that we try to do what we can to express that to the dealers and manufacturers to say there is a demand here.
Good for you.
Thanks.
And we wish you well and your company and your executives the best of all. We want you to be successful. You're a Hawaii product, you're creative, you're outreach, and all good things. I mean, I hope you succeed in California and wherever you
Thank
go.
you.
Stay out of Israel and Denmark, though.
We'll do
At
that
least
for
for
now.
now.
Yeah,
For
for now.
now.
For now.
Ray, you want to close?
Well, I would sum up by saying that, whether you're an EV driver right now or you're going to be in the future, stay tuned, because I think there's a lot more to come, and it's going to be going both ways, if you know what I mean.
Okay. What do you mean?
We're going to be charging and discharging, depending on the need of the grid as well as the customer. I think that's where we will be talking
Yeah.
2 years from now.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
we
really,
might.
and I think if you and I had our druthers, we'd see this as an enormous battery that could solve the grid problem. Yeah, what a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, one final thing. North Shore, we need one. Okay.
Gotcha.
okay.
Gotcha.
We'll have her back in 6 months and see if.
Put the
if
pressure
that's-
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Arden Penton, Volta Industries, here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, with me and Ray Starling, talking about high energy with Volta. Thanks very much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more ThinkTech. Aloha.